All right, welcome back. This is the second short little bonus material with some tips of non-Ableton Suite native plugins that I would recommend. And this is actually more than just a plugin. This is a whole monitoring system by Slate Digital, Stephen Slate, and one of his companies and his crew. Big shout out to Stephen. It was such a pleasure to meet you at NAMM. And yeah, you guys have been doing, actually, this is the game changer from my point of view. I worked in the MI industry for many years. Congratulations, Stephen team. This stuff is insane and mind-blowing, and I don't know how you pulled it off. Yeah, just shocked. Like, yeah. Anyway, let's have a look at why I'm such a fan of this thing called VSX by Slate. It's basically a combination of a software that emulates the sound and acoustics and frequency response and phase response of a studio, of not just any studio, but some of the world's top-notch mastering and production studios, and a calibrated headphone that goes with it. So the whole package is not super cheap. I think it's like normally $500. They had a discount going on it, so it was like $399 for a while. You can do pay as you go. But yeah, it's like if you can't afford great monitoring and a great room, or at least a decent room and decent monitoring, this is definitely the way to go. If I have to make critical mix decisions, this is what I use. So you get this package of a headphone tuned to the software. And yeah, let's have a listen. Let's have a listen to what this does, and let's have a start with one of the systems that's the most fun to listen to, which is Stephen Slate's personal mix room. I'm going to start this track on bypass and then play it through Stephen's room. Even if you don't have the Slate headphones, you should be able to hear that on another pair of headphones. And I hope that initially it's shocking for the brain. I took a little while. Everyone takes a little while to get used to it. But at a certain point, your brain starts to believe the psychoacoustic effect of being in a room. And yeah, there's people that close their eyes and they feel like they're in the room. I'm not quite at that level, but I can perceive it as a room sound. And yeah, this is the room. For many, many people, including myself, this is the room where you hear all the problems in phase and weird stuff in the frequencies and whatnot. If it sounds good in this room on the engineer setting, you're done. There's a lot of really cool other rooms. I showed you also the Auratone, which is the near field actually this is an Avantone. In Steve's mix room, there's some big PMCs in here. There's barefoot monitors in there. I didn't show you this one. This is the club one. Let's have a quick look at that because that's really interesting. This is a great check if you have too much bass in your track. If you switch over to bass and it's not just mush, then you're okay. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of studios in here. The first one I showed you here, this is a bought-on edition, which is really worth it. It has a really cool low end. It's really nice to listen and see if the low end is mixed cleanly and fat. And yeah, the club one is one I always reference to also because I've had it sometimes where I realized, ooh, I have too much bass, and you'll notice it here. It'll just be like, it's not something you want. Well, what I mentioned in my main video about the feedback that Mouse got from someone at the beginning of his career about in the club, in a reverby room, it just sounding like a wash of bass, this room will show it to you. So the combination of basically this room, Mike Dean's room, and this club for me is enough. Like that's all I need to mix. And even though I do have a, pretty nice monitoring setup, I have some really cool EMS Blues monitors. Unfortunately, that company doesn't exist anymore, but amazing monitors from Germany. I have some DMAX audio cubes, which is like some secret kind of discovery of the Gearsluts community. Gear Space community, excuse me. Yeah, which are really cool, really small, really compact, these little white guys there. And they're really great to work on without blasting yourself, but they still have really good bass. And then I have a classic, I was going to use my mouse pointer to point to the Auratone. I have an Auratone speaker. That is, yeah, the Grog check, to check how levels are and if things are too sharp in the mids and things like that. But even though I have all these monitors, that's what I was going to say, because my room is, you know, it's not a purpose-built studio. I mean, it's a pretty good studio. I have some acoustics in here. I have a little bit of bass trapping in here. But if I have to make really critical mix decisions, if I'm mastering, you be sure I'm going to be mastering on VSX. I will listen to my room at some point, but 90% of the work is done on VSX, because that translates and I can trust that it's repeatable and it doesn't have all the problems of my room. Speaking of problems, sorry guys, it's late, but I have to address this. There was a lot of talk for a while that these headphones from the Founder series, as it was called, were breaking. They had really bad luck when they did the original production, that one of their suppliers gave them bad product. I'm just pointing this out because you'll see a lot of that in the thread. I think they're on version 5 now, which has a metal band. And those problems, to my best knowledge, are solved. There hasn't been any more breakages on their most recent series, so you can buy that now without worrying about that things from the past. And if you happen to get an old one, like this is the Founders Edition. This is the very first series that came out. Mine have been perfect. The majority of them apparently were fine. But if they break, Steve's got you covered. Steven Slade, they will send you out a new one. Even to the hillsides of Nicaragua, I've seen people like, oh man, I live out in nowhere. And like 3 days later, a guy showed up from FedEx and gave him a replacement headphone. So don't worry about that. The value that this system can give you if you're starting out in production, if you have this and Ableton Suite, I suppose, maybe a MIDI keyboard and a controller, you're done. Like you don't need anything else. And as what's his name? The guy that does all this crazy stuff with the glasses, everything on a laptop. I forget his name. Skrillex. To say what you want of his music, was a super successful producer, and I just keep hearing everything he does is just a laptop. So, you know, it's definitely possible, but we need to be able to know what we're hearing, and I found VSX really good, and it's also not so fatiguing on your ears. So absolutely recommended. Go check it out. Listen to the recordings I just made, because you'll be able to hear the effect. And actually, you know what? That's a good self-suggestion. Let me play to you. I'm not going to play a reference track on it because I don't know if I'm going to get like copyright strikes and stuff if I ever share this on somewhere else. So I'm going to play you my track again and just have a listen through again through the speakers so you can get an idea of what it sounds like on your own headphones. You'll see I'll be adjusting the loudness here at some points to get it loud in your headphones, because unfortunately these rooms are not all at the same volume, but that way you can get a good impression of what this thing sounds like.
That way I'm ready to start.
here's your Grogbox check. There's a lot of other very cool rooms in here. Let's see. So no, oh, Archon. This is one. This is the one a lot of people love. Hey, I love how this guy has his Moog riding shotgun in his super tuned Tesla. Apparently this car has like $500,000 worth of sound equipment in it, or tuning or something or other. But yeah, so you get all kinds of interesting, I guess, real world for some people reference checks that you can listen to your music on. Wow, these files that I'm generating are big. I just saw a little thingy here that my Dropbox disk is almost full. So yes, I think that's my cue to end this video. This went a little bit longer than I thought, but I think it's really interesting to listen to this tool. I hope it is of use to you to have seen this. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on the next video at some point or other. All right. Take care, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.